All right, we're gonna get started. Welcome, everybody. So what is today's date? Today is February 25th. And so we're gonna get, start the meeting. We'll just do a quick attendance. I think we have 7 members and alternates here, so.
Richard Klein,
Yes.
Eric Talbot,
Here.
Michael Aronson, here, Phil Morea,
Here.
Angelica Kanganis,
Here.
Holly Thurston, here, and Cher Roy.
Here. All right, and so because we have 7 members, Richard Klein, our alternate member, will be a voting member today.
Very exciting.
For the first time, yeah. So, all right, so as we get, the first order of business is just approval of the minutes from our January 28th meeting. I believe everybody that is here was there, so I will just ask if anybody can give us a motion to approve those minutes.
Bill Murray, motion to approve the minutes.
First and second.
All right, and I'll just do as any objections. None, those are approved. So we will now jump into the first part of the agenda, new business. So first item up is going to be 50 North Highland. This is a request for an amendment to a previously granted site plan resolution. This was actually originally approved in September of 2024. And I guess we can have the applicant just give us just a brief description of what you're requesting, and then I may ask staff to fill in some details, and then we'll go from there.
The only change that we asking is the requirement to have the DOT approval be before COO and not before permit.
Okay, and this is related specifically to, I think, a drainage connection
Yes.
under Route 9.
Yes.
Could you just introduce yourself and your
Oh, I'm
affiliation for the
sorry.
record, sir?
Jorge
Good
B.
point.
Hernandez, ARQ,
Thank
architect for the project.
Okay, so, and this is just related, I don't know if there's, we can put the resolution up onto the screen.
Sorry, could you just say it again? What's changed? I'm sorry, I didn't
The,
quite catch it.
I guess part of the resolution was that we needed to have DOT approval prior to issuance of building permit. We already have the application in. The only request that we have is that the before COO.
Yes, I think this was,
It just says all conditions.
it's in there, yeah, no, but it's specific to approvals of outside agencies.
I believe it was
Here.
A prior to signing the site plan.
Tony, do you want to just,
Yeah, Tony, since this, I think this is one of your conditions originally.
Yeah, I'm gonna challenge this, I'll say.
I feel like there's something else more specific about this.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought it was.
It's on the
Should have been
building
before,
permit.
yeah.
I think we're
Um,
thinking the specificity.
I think
because it's in
it's
Tony's
F,
memo.
it's letter F. there.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was the one. All the approvals are required of all regulatory agencies, so we're just gonna take the DOT component out of that and just specify it prior to issuance of the CO.
So in this section, you'd say with the, so F stands, except with this one limited exception related to the
We would move
DOT.
it
Yeah.
into this
Yeah,
section.
Right.
exactly, with the exception.
And prior to CO, they would not just require that permit, but also sign off of that permit
Yeah,
from DOT.
yeah,
And
We
if,
wanna
Chair,
close
may I
that.
just sort of
You
Pop in a
absolutely
little
may, yeah.
So just to kind of put on the record, this project, has done a lot of work. There was a lot of site work involved that I don't think they were anticipating. There's also the complication of obviously being on a state road, but also the fact that this is a state licensed business that's coming into our community. So the road has not been super smooth for them. It is generally not our practice to do this, but we think, in good faith, we would like to ask the board to consider moving that segment into the bottom part of the resolution.
Right, and really just a part of that segment over to the bottom.
Exactly.
This limited piece related to the state
Mhm.
approval, which could be a lengthy
yeah.
process.
And the applicant has already shown us proof that they did make application, so obviously, once it's approved, they'll share that with us, and then they should be good to go.
Okay. Board members, questions on this?
Nothing's changed with design or anything that we previously approved this of it.
Nope.
I'm fine.
Can I have a motion to open a public hearing?
Eric Talbot, I make a motion to open the public hearing.
First and I second the motion.
All right, any objections to that? I don't see any. Is there anybody here from the public to speak to this application, this amendment? don't see anybody in here. Is there anybody on Zoom? You can use the hand raise function if you'd like to speak on this amendment application. And I don't see any hands. So can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this?
Motion to close, Richard Klein.
Michael Aronson, second.
Right, any objections? There are none. All right, so I think we have clarity on what the ask is, and I guess, so we'll, staff, you understand, I guess, what the redraft will look like, based on this conversation. Applicant, do you have any other questions?
No.
All right, we have a motion to approve the, amendment to the previously granted resolution.
Michael Aronson making a motion to approve the amendment to the previously approved. approval. Oh, there's the second motion.
And we will do a roll call.
Okay. Michael Aronson.
Aye.
Eric Talbot.
Aye.
Richard Klein.
Aye.
Holly Thurston.
Aye.
Angelica Panganis.
Aye.
Bill Maria.
Aye.
Chair Roll.
Hi, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, so next up on the agenda is BAR 04-2025. This is 40 Beach Road. And this is a BAR approval for the construction of a one-story rear yard addition. So do we have the applicant for 40 Beach here?
Yes, you do.
Excellent. So before you speak, please just introduce yourself in relation to the applicant, and then we can put your drawings up on the screen and go through the project.
Very good. My name is Michael. First off, good evening. My name is Michael McGarvey. I am the engineer for the application, for the application. And this is not even an addition. It's a take out of a glass enclosure and putting up a walls for 4 seasons, basically. It was a 3-season. It was what do you call it?
Greenhouse.
Greenhouse. Greenhouse, it's only the back end of it, is greenhouse. I'll do some pictures of what it used to look like. But if you don't mind if I can pass those around real quick.
Can you leave them with me so we can make sure to
Sure,
put them in the
absolutely.
record, please?
Hope I have enough to share.
You can skip right over me.
Is that really?
Yeah.
I think we got plenty. Yeah, we were passing around. So is this, if we're looking at the photographs up there, so is this already now constructed?
Yes, I believe that, yeah, obviously, I know for a fact it has been constructed. It's not finished. I guess they were stopped somewhere in the middle of it. There was some kind of confusion, don't know how, to be quite honest. The contractor thought it was already approved and he went ahead with the plan.
All right, we're just reviewing the VA, there, so
Okay.
that's not
I
our.
understand 100%, I
Yeah.
agree. But that's how we got here, but basically.
Understood. So it involved the removal of this greenhouse and then I guess the addition of that framed
That's correct.
piece right there.
There was no increase in impervious surface. We took the exact same foundation and we put the stud wall on top of the foundation.
All right, so actually maybe this, looking at the photograph might be a great way to proceed because that's, I'm assuming, showing materials as it's intended to.
Sure.
to look.
We did submit photographs.
Yeah,
Okay. That's the front of the house. This is the back. This is where we are. You see the beige?
Yeah.
That is the addition. I call it addition. It's just a difference in materials, basically. We took the glass off and put the wood siding on. It's 18 feet long, plus or minus, by about 5.5 feet wide, plus or minus.
and that siding is wood?
It's wood. Yep, it's clapboard.
Okay, and it's going to be painted?
It's going to be painted gray to match the rest of the house, obviously.
Okay. Board members, questions? None? Okay. Can we have a motion to open the public hearing on this?
Bill Maria, hearing Richard Klein. Bill Maria, motion to open the public hearing.
I heard Richard motion. Okay,
I think it was a tie.
it was a tie. I do think we should get those buzzers, but, all right, so Richard motion, Bill second. Any objections? None. We're now in a public hearing. Is there anybody here from the public to speak to this application? I don't see anybody here. Is there anybody on Zoom? You can use the hand raise function if you'd like to speak to this application. And I do not see anybody using the hand raise function. Can I have one person motion to close the public hearing?
Holly Thurston, motion to close. Michael Aronson, second.
Any objections to that? I don't see any. The public hearing is closed. Yeah, I think honestly with the photographs there, this is very straightforward. I think the color, is the color listed on the drawings? We should just make sure.
See it.
Because if it's not, I think we can condition this to matching.
Yes,
the
match on the
house,
front, please.
On the front.
It's a gray, it's not a battleship gray, it's a lighter colored gray.
Yeah, and I think we can use matching what's existing rather than trying to specify a
Okay,
color.
that'd be perfect. Thank you very much.
I think we can, I think for the purpose of a resolution, we'll just put that as a condition. I think regardless of whether it's in the drawing, so we don't need to dig into that. All right, so I think with that said, can we have a motion to approve the application with that condition?
Bill Murray, a motion to approve with that condition.
Richard Klein, second.
And we will do a roll call.
Michael Aronson. Aye. Eric Talbot.
Aye.
Richard Klein.
Aye.
Holly Thurston. Aye. Angelica Tungenis.
Aye.
Bill Murray.
Aye.
And Sharon Lloyd.
Very good. Thank you very much. Good luck
It was
with
easy.
the project.
Thank you. Have a great night, guys.
You too. All right, next up is another VAR. This is 05/2025, 36 Snowden Avenue, and this is a request for VAR approval for the construction of the construction and addition conversion to a two-family residence. So we can start with the,
Plans and elevations.
yeah.
Just for the benefit of the board, real quick, this application was before the zoning board. They received variances for the front yard setbacks of the proposed addition as well as for tandem parking.
Thank you. That's usually one of my first questions anyway. So it's good to know that. All right. Good evening. If you want to introduce yourself, yeah, and just like your relation to the applicant, and you can walk us through the project.
Roger. Good evening, everyone. My name is Franklin Criollo. I'm here about 36 Snowden Avenue. I'm the owner. Like you mentioned, we're just trying to do an addition. There's nothing. Trying to keep it simple, you know. Okay, siding, Anderson windows.
I know that, Maddie, there was two sets of drawings in the application. One of them was a little bit harder to read, and I think that's the one, but those same drawings are in the other file. I think just in the,
No.
nope, that's the existing, though it might be helpful to look at that. Let's look at the drawings first. Yeah, 36. There was plans.
That's where we started.
I think the elevations were the ones that were a little bit harder to read, but those elevations are in the plans. All right, so those are the existing. Maybe it actually might be helpful just to look at one of those plans really quickly, just to understand, right, what's any of them, because they're all just showing the footprint change, right? So we have the gray box, which is the original house, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so the addition is that larger volume kind of on the back corner, right?
The right corner. Yes.
Yeah. So when we're looking at this, the front of the house is the bottom of the page, right? And so you're adding that second staircase effectively for like a tandem house.
Yes.
Okay. So now I think we scroll down, Maddie, we can get to the elevations. That's the roof. All right. So again, so here the darker gray is the new addition, right? And this is as it would appear from the street.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's looking now from the side. Is this what you were showing before, Maddie? Because it looks.
This one's like more crisp.
It is,
I
yeah, it's a
think,
little clearer, okay. And then this is the back, correct?
The right side.
The right side?
Yeah.
Oh, I see, yeah, so where it sneaks in behind, and there's
That's
the
the
back.
back.
Okay, so yeah, so the siding, you started to talk about the siding, so what's the siding material?
So it's going to be clapboard siding. It's just going to be double floor. It's going to be the white.
Yeah,
Surround.
you can hold them up.
Yeah.
You have the color chip on there.
Yeah, so it's just this bottom color. So
Okay.
just going to go with the rest of it.
Okay, and that's the siding material, the vinyl material,
Yes.
okay. Board members, let's just take a look. Roofing material, is it gonna match what's on the existing house?
Charcoal gray, asphalt. So, roofing.
Can you talk a little bit about the entrance portico? I know that's the photo of the existing house. So what are you proposing for the addition? I saw it looked like there's a similar kind of entrance.
Yeah, so it's just gonna be, just concrete and then, you know, bluestone, a railing, nothing.
And how about the columns and the roof? How are those drawings?
Oh, just regular, shingles.
Maybe can we zoom in on that a little bit, Maddie, see how it's described here?
Yeah, it's just asphalt.
Okay, and the columns, I mean, we assume that will be white,
Yeah.
a white painted wood or similar material.
Yes, it's gonna be.
Is there any other material listing in this set? I don't know if there was. So make sure we have clarity on what that, because that might be a condition. One of the house sections up may have that. If you earn, yeah, you just want to buy it. Down a little. Down, yeah, and then move over to the left side of that sheet. We can zoom in on that. That may show the material of the little entrance. Yeah, so it actually does clear. It's well, those are just the post connectors. I'm trying to see if there's any finished materials listed on there. I mean, I'll open up this, any other board questions on this. I think that would be helpful to have a clear description. If we can get clear enough, I think we can make that a condition now.
Yeah, I had a couple of quick questions. So the existing building is stucco.
It's brick.
It's brick,
Yeah.
painted white, and then
Painted.
this will be siding. And are these effectively basically two independent townhomes, or is there any physical entrance from one property into the other?
Oh, it's just connected, but it's completely separate.
So they're just sharing a party wall?
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it.
So it's basically
Yeah.
two attached townhomes.
Yeah.
Houses. And all of the ZBA variances, they've all been acquired or approved already.
Yes.
It's just a little hard to tell some of the details on the porch and.
I mean, maybe we could do a street view.
Yeah,
It's always nice. Helpful. Yeah, and obviously, board members, any other kind of questions or clarifications that you feel like you need here.
The idea is that they look like two separate.
Yeah,
Houses,
it's kind of, yeah. So I don't think this picture was updated, but
Yeah.
we probably. Yeah, before it was yellow and stuff, you see that it had white windows and everything.
What is with the blurring?
You can go in
Ah.
and
There we go, yeah.
you can choose to blur a property you own on Google Street View.
So this was the before.
Okay, so you've already done the painting.
Yeah, yes.
Um,
And are those garages is that on your property?
Yeah, those are the, attached garages. Okay.
was that related to the tandem parking that was
Yeah,
approved by the ZBA?
yes.
So effectively, so the driveway will, how is the house gonna relate to the driveway, just to picture this? I think the edge of the house will go right up to the edge of the driveway, is that your site plan?
Oh, it's offset, it's further back. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, I see. So the driveway remains where it is, but then that house is, let's go back to that street view. That's helpful, actually. So that, it really will be quite far back, and but it will be in front of where the driveway is.
Yes.
So those garages that we can see on the right side of that image will still be in front of
The house, yeah.
the house. So you come in, got it.
That's two of the parking spots
Tandem parking relates to those two spots adjacent to the addition.
in the back.
Got it. You're closing off that area. So there's a little bit of driveway. Is that, and it's easement, so that easement is for another property
Yes,
in the back?
That's another property in the back.
And what about the landscaping that's showing on the street view? Are those large trees still there, or are they?
No, they got moved back to the back, so like if you see the pictures on most recent ones. You'll
Okay,
see
on the
it's,
plans, okay, I didn't think I saw. So
Yeah,
is
no.
there any landscaping on the plans for the front of the properties?
we're gonna be putting like some small pine trees and stuff, but green along the new house too, so.
Is that on the plans, the landscaping?
So. No.
And normally we wouldn't review landscaping as part, unless we're looking
Oh,
at
okay.
screening from neighbors or
Right,
like
okay.
impact on neighborhood.
Okay,
Because we're not doing a site plan review per
right,
se.
right, sorry.
No, it's okay. Actually, looking at that photo, I do have another question, just because the white, the existing house you painted, the windows are all, those trims are black. Are you doing the same thing on the addition?
Yeah, we're gonna put Anderson black windows and stuff on there and stuff, so it matches the,
So the color, so you have the white with the black.
yes.
And then the white wood material of that portico, I'm just trying to get to a point where we can be comfortable with that entrance porch. So that materially and color wise, you would match the appearance.
That's an old picture when we were touching it up and stuff, but like, yeah, it would.
And well, how are you touching it up? Like
Just
what,
the paint and stuff, just
Okay.
white, and yeah,
you're not changing anything color wise, you're just maybe repairing it.
just paint, yeah, just, that's about it.
Okay. Other questions from the board?
So there used to be windows on the side.
Yeah, before there was windows inside.
Yeah. And then that's where the other.
That's where the addition is gonna be connected pretty much. Where that top window, if you go back like three or 4 feet comes out that 20 feet or so. The garage.
Have you done any work to the garage?
No, but we're gonna be fixing it up too, like once, it's a sore eye and it, so we're definitely gonna fix the doors and everything else.
But that's not part of this application, correct?
No, like, eventually we'll. get to
Okay.
that, but-
In the back, I just noticed something in the picture on the back of the existing house. Is it a very large window or is that a door on the second floor? That right there, yeah.
That was a door in no, on the left, like.
Yes,
kinda
that
see it?
large, the longer.
Oh, no,
on
no,
the
those are
second-
windows.
Oh, those are windows.
Those are
Okay,
windows, yeah.
Okay, I
But
guess
I
it's
thought you,
just the
yeah,
proportion to the window. next
oh,
to
yeah.
it. I see.
No, go for it. Angel.
Kind of stupid, but on the back elevation, I saw with the proposed addition that there was also like, it seemed like some type of railing put in front of the window. Like the existing house that has like the door and then the window next to it at the bottom, like right there. At
Oh, for the
base.
back, yes.
Yeah, what is that exactly?
'Cause
It's
there's-
hard to make out,
Oh, there's like steps that go to the basement and stuff, so we're gonna have to put like a railing.
but that railing that goes across the window?
Oh, no, that's further back. Like if you look at the site plan at the top, you could probably. Right. On the right-hand side, if you. Right there, you can see that those stairs are right there yeah. So right by the stairs, you see like,
Okay, so
House further
those stairs
back.
like come out
yes,
beyond that original structure and it will go up to kind of meeting the new structure.
yes.
That's why that will be there. Okay,
Yeah,
got
yeah.
it. That was, yeah, I've had a hard time.
Oh,
understanding.
yeah. Yeah.
We go back to those rear elevations just real quick, so I think there were just railings and also around those light wells. Angelica, I think that maybe. Yeah. I think that may just be a safety precaution there, the 36-inch high guardrail with balusters less than 4 feet apart. 4 inches apart, so that's just here, yeah.
Yeah, it's just-
Yeah, I just didn't understand because like the pictures, like street view and everything, it didn't show that there was that extension of the doorway, like past the door.
Yeah.
And even for the current picture, I kind of just see the door. I don't really see like an extension there. That's
Oh,
why.
yeah,
And are those metal railings?
yes, those gonna be.
And what color will they be painted?
They'll be black,
They'll be black.
yes.
So we should just kind of track those items, because those would have to be conditions.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about the window color, we've talked about the guardrail color, we've talked about the porch material and color. Okay. And I see there's is that a heat pump air conditioner?
Yeah.
So you'll have a similar system unit on the back of the other
Yeah,
house? The other unit. Where will that be located?
On the backside.
Okay, so, all right, on the backside of that house, not.
Yeah,
not on the
not,
backside
yeah,
of this
the
house.
other house, the
Okay.
addition.
Any other questions, board? We have a motion to open a public hearing.
Bill Moran, motion to open the public hearing.
All persons having motion.
Any objections to that? I don't see any. We are now in a public hearing. Is there anybody in this room that wants to speak to this application? I don't see anybody. Is there anybody on Zoom? If you'd like to speak to this application, you can use the hand raise function. And I don't see anybody on Zoom. So can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Michael Aaron, go ahead.
So Eric Talbot, I make the motion to close the public hearing.
Michael Aronson, second.
Any objections? No objections. The public hearing is closed. So I think, the drawings themselves are pretty detailed. I think there's a couple of those colors that were missing, but I think materially it's very straightforward and clear. Are there any other last minute comments or thoughts from the board? Just a moment ago, I outlined the conditions that I understood them from our conversation, so I'm not going to restate those. So unless there are any other comments, can I have a motion to approve the application?
Bill Moran, motion to approve the application. Richard Klein, second.
All right, and that's approval with conditions as I stated in the preamble, so can we have roll?
Okay, Michael Aronson. Aye. Eric Talbot.
Aye.
Richard Klein.
Aye.
Holly Thurston.
Aye.
Angelica Kanganis.
Aye.
Bill Maria.
Aye.
And Chair Roy.
Very good. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Just as a note, and we say this to all applicants, I think I may have tried to say it a moment ago, but this approval from this board, you still need to wait for Joe to process the building permit. This is part of his permit application process.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, on to the next, this is letter D of the agenda, under new business, and this is VAR 06-2025 for 6 Beach Road. And the applicant in this case is seeking VAR approval for the construction of a 2-story addition. So I don't know if we have the applicant
I
here.
see Sarah, as a participant.
Okay,
I've tried to promote you to panelist. Okey-doke. All right, Sarah, if you could unmute and turn on your camera whenever you're ready.
And turn on camera. Hi, our architect, Dan Cantelmo, is also on and he's going to be presenting.
All right, hang on 1 second. Dan, I'm gonna bring you over as well. All right, Dan, same drill. If you could turn on your camera and unmute.
Okay.
There he
all
is.
right, hey. You guys are up, and if you want to introduce yourselves and walk us through your project, we will share the drawings up on the screen as you go.
Okay, I'm Dan Cantelmo. I am the architect for the project, and we're proposing a 2-story addition to the left side of the house, based on the front elevation to see there to the left side of the screen. All of the colors of the addition will match the house. These are existing drawings. So the house is a 1.5 story and it has very low headroom. So in order to create more headroom for an office inside the home on the 2nd floor, we needed it to be full height. So the addition is taller than the existing house, but we hipped it on 4 sides in order to minimize the appearance of the addition. We also chose to change the material on the addition to a board and batten and then reintroduce that on the front gable and over the front door, which currently does not have a cover. So you'll see that there's a couple of covers over the door to the mudroom on the left. And then again on the side of the house with brackets. So we're also using the same detail for the front door hood roof with brackets.
Um, And then just on the rear, again, trying to get a little more headroom in one of the bedrooms.
Let's stop you for a second because we kind of lost our computer operator momentarily, but
Okay, so-
go ahead with your description and Tarek we'll try to jump in as our
Oh,
IT
no,
specialist.
I'm terrified.
That's okay.
All right, keep going. Yeah, so the rear elevation, maybe we can just think that was
Yeah, we, this,
other way, actually go back up. And just up to the top of that, yeah, that.
yeah, so the gray areas again, we're filling in. You know, it's kind of a very typical cape with the shed dormer on the back. We're filling in the edges of the shed in order to get more headroom in the rooms upstairs, but we're leaving the rake board on the existing house, which you see on the right side elevation, so that the shape of the original roof still is maintained, instead of just lifting it up and putting siding on the whole thing, and so it looks like it's a salt box.
Got it. So you're keeping the gable and the reed of that kind of shed dormer there?
Right.
And that siding on that shed dormer is because I know the way you drew it, you're kind of showing new material as rendered and the existing is just kind of blank. So, but that's
Yeah.
the siding that you have. We'll look at the photos in a moment, but just to kind of picture this and kind of assemble the full image in our heads.
Right, so that siding would match what's on the existing house.
Right.
Mhm. Again, you know, what we're showing as gray is really meant more for clarity with the clients and contractors, but it's it would be the same color as the house, just to show that it's new compared to existing.
No, understood. I think graphically that's very clear and actually helpful. So, okay, so maybe we can are there maybe look at some photographs and materials just to, I guess, get a better sense of this, and then I think the board can ask questions. So that material submission, that's just showing the board and batten
Right.
that you're planning on the addition and that you're also incorporating into some of those elements of the existing house.
Yes.
And color wise,
It would match the house. It's it's like a light blue color. And
Yeah.
white trim.
yeah, maybe we can look into these. Maybe start in on the front elevation because I think that's going to be the most impacted by this proposal.
Yeah.
So you're effectively on the left side of this image, you're adding this addition, right?
Yeah, and just for depth, the chimney that's there on the left is actually in front of the addition slightly. So the addition is set back, quite a bit from the front of the house as well.
And that chimney is also being extended, right? That's part of, you're bringing it above the
Yes.
line of the new addition. And that would just be, in kind with brick.
Yep. Yes.
My only question was having a little trouble looking at the aerial photograph and the site plan and which neighbor is going to see this addition. I wasn't clear. So the house itself, that's a side road off of Beach Road, is that correct?
Yes.
The access to the house is,
Right.
oh,
So house number 8 would be closest to the addition.
which is, I can't really see.
Oh, so we have the houses, well, it's above the yellow. The yellow is our house,
Right,
and the one above it is the number 8. That's
okay, so the addition would face that way.
right, it would face the
Or
number.
to face the gas station, actually. Maybe, is it, I guess I'm just a little unclear about how situated on the lot. And
The little, so on the yellow box there's a little bump.
yeah,
That's the addition would go where the bump is.
okay,
So it faces the aqueduct. The front of the house, because it's not facing Beach Road, right? It's
No,
road is
right.
kind of the side of the house. And then is that a shared access for those houses?
Yeah, I might be able to chip in. So right now our house faces the aqueduct. There's a small street, it's an
Okay.
extension that goes off of Beach Road that's parallel to the aqueduct trail. And so there's the addition will, part of it will face the aqueduct and there will be windows that face the gas station, but there's enough trees between, there's pines and all season trees that are between us and the gas station and a big hill, and they have a fence and we have a fence. So that that the gas station, really won't see too much of us. It's the neighbors number 8 who, it will be closest to their house, but the way we have the windows designed, it still maintains privacy between the two houses. There's also a line of this, you can't really see how big the trees are now, but there's a line of evergreens in between our property and their property as well.
That's helpful.
And this is all as of right, you're within all the zoning setbacks, zoning height, all of that is, there's no variances required for any of this?
No,
So that is the aqueduct trail?
I think I'm on the trail.
I think you are.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
A nice way of looking at this, because you can see, yeah, you're right there,
Yeah.
kind of see it.
Yeah.
Actually, the, I think
Goes
you take a
backwards.
step backward, yeah, you might. Yeah,
That's you,
that's
right?
it.
Okay.
That white house that you're seeing is 8 Beach Road, and then you can sort of see, yeah, that's ours.
And this
Yeah,
is 8.
That's
Yeah.
8. Got it.
That was helpful.
I just want to see if there are other questions or comments or thoughts from the board. We just, but the only thing that struck me, I just want to make sure I understand it properly, is you talked about how the addition is set back, I guess from what we were calling the front, from the aqueduct side. Maybe just look at the plan, just to better orient how that's related to the house. I think you went by it. Yeah, got it. Right, so
Mhm.
that chimney, is the chimney aligned more or less with that stair? Trying to see. Oh, the chimney's near the front of the house.
The chimney,
I
pretty
can see,
much touches the front of the addition. The back of the chimney touches the front of the addition.
right, and the back of the addition is aligned with the back of the house, but the front of the addition is that setback of whatever.
Right.
I can't read the dimensions, but that's kind of what it feels like.
I think it's 17 by 17, the addition.
Yep. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts before we go into a public hearing on this? Concerns, questions? I think it's described pretty thoroughly. Do we have a motion to open a public hearing?
Michael Aronson, motion to open a public hearing.
I'll second the motion.
All right, so any objections? None. We are now in a public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak to this application in this room? I don't see anybody. Is there anybody on Zoom? There's nobody. So we have a motion to close the public hearing.
Maria, motion to close the public hearing.
I second the motion.
All right, any objections to that? See none. Public hearing is closed. All right, I think, the comments were pretty straightforward. I don't think I've heard any conditions in here. I think the materials were described pretty clearly. Any last minute thoughts or concerns before we move to a vote? Nope. Okay, then can I have a motion to approve the application?
Richard Klein, motion to approve. Bill Maria, second.
And a roll call.
Okay. Richard Klein.
Aye.
Eric Talbot.
Aye.
Michael Aronson.
Aye.
Holly Thurston.
Aye.
Angelica Kanganis.
Aye.
Bill Maria.
Aye.
And Chair Roy.
Aye, very good. Thank you very much. As I said to the other folks, so Joe will finalize his review based on this approval. can't obviously start work until you have that work permit.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Good, that's a good thing. Very observant. All right. All right, so we're now gonna move forward, to continuing business. So the first, item of continuing business on the agenda is 5 Sherman Place. This is another BAR for a, new single-family residence. I know we've seen this a couple of times, originally submitted in August. So we have the applicant here. And then we can get, I know there's some revised drawings, if we can put those up and, have our conversation. Let's start, I think, with the drawings. And then we can talk a little bit about the rendering. I think there's a newer rendering on there as well.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Juan Paredes. I hate representing Jorge Pesante, the owner of 5 Sherman Place. And we're trying to get approved on the plans as we update the design.
So, and I think that what we looked at last time, one of the conversations that we wound up focusing in on the size and the scale of the facade and kind of how it read to the street. And one of the suggestions I think that we had as a board was what you could do materially to break that up so it didn't feel so big. So can you just describe, I can see that, and I don't remember volumetrically, is it the material or did you also change the roof line a little bit?
Just the material.
Okay,
And it's supposed to go all the way down, but they were still deciding when I need to send the plan. So technically, it has to go all the way down and we can still finish that. But that's the idea. We're gonna change that section all the way down.
okay, I mean, we would want to be able to see,
It is on the render.
okay, so let's look at the rendering, because I had some. The rendering. So, right, so and actually, so the drawing above the rendering is not the same.
Need to keep going down.
But then is there any other kind of, because on the drawing, you kind of show some vertical elements that divide the clapboard.
That's why you need to keep going down because you cannot see it there. Have to keep going down. Keep going
That one?
down.
Keep going.
Okay.
Yep. There.
Right, but the same thing. So like on the rendering though, you had some, you have like the vertical siding and then you have like the clapboard and then just like, but in these renderings, they're just butted up against one another. In the drawing, at least I think there was like a vertical architectural.
Yeah, it's gonna have some bands on it, the moldings on it. Like I say, is we have to go against the time on this one because it was a really difficult time to get the pictures. Like you see that old new house is right there now. And the architect and the owner, they can agree on how to do the change, but plan and renders kind of complement the idea that we plan to do there. We're gonna segment the house with different material on the front, on the center of the highest place on the front. And it's gonna be replaced by a different kind of material. Same color, by the way.
So, I mean, I guess just on the face of it, I'm just having a hard time because the drawings don't match the renderings. The renderings don't show some of the, I don't think they work as alone as a rendering. I'm also wondering if everything's the same color, how effective it is at breaking that up, right? I think that remember our objective is to try to, I think that's a helpful image because you can kind of see the two very distinct materials on the house, which I know next door is the same size. And even in this rendering, right, it's just changing the texture a little bit doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot. I'll open this up to the board because I know this is pretty similar to what we've been talking about before.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo your comments. Can we go back to the revised drawings and just compare again? Because I was having trouble figuring out exactly what had changed from our previous views.
Is this what, I just want to make sure I'm showing the right thing.
Please.
But it doesn't carry down to the first floor.
Yes.
Yeah.
But on the renderings, it does.
But on the
Right,
rendering,
It looks like there's edging
right,
on
and
the
that's not
second
shown
floor,
on
and
the
that's what we're
rendering.
asking.
Yeah,
for.
that's again,
Yeah,
it's
It also
No.
looks like on this drawing that the roof line protrudes out past, so it's not one, like on the rendering, it looks like one continuous siding, but on here, the roof is interrupting it. Like this looks much nicer than the rendering.
oh, the roof line on the front.
Yeah,
Correct. Render and drawings are not made by the same person. So that's the reason why they don't match 100%, and then we were working on this late, but it can be fixed. The thing is that the owner insists to have the same color, and that's the question right now, that whether you change the color with something more, I don't know. I will say, reflecting the difference on the materials, he insists to keep the color. I can recommend him to change the color to be something different, as long as you tell me, oh, go darker, go lighter, something that I can tell him to understand, because he's an owner's issue now. He likes that color and he likes that design.
So is it the area that, I guess that's, what is that? Is that brick? Is it, I mean, a faux brick?
No, it's
Yeah.
a siding. It's like shingles on the wall.
Oh, it's shingles.
Yeah,
And
it's a
so
fabric plan.
what Holly was referencing, at the end of this area, is it gonna be sort of like a white? I mean, not clear what is differentiating
Trim.
it from.
Oh,
is
the
it a
trim around,
or
yeah,
is it,
it's a trim around
right,
the new section.
and that's really basically it, except for the stone that goes from the base down. That's the only thing that's really changed on the facade from the last time we looked at
Yes,
this.
that's the plan that we get, but the order that we got about the render was to run that siding all the way down. That's why now the render looks different. So I don't know how to reflect the situation, but they send me the files 30 minutes before the time to send them. They couldn't finish on time, and I
Was
just got the
that
time to
roof,
submit on time.
was that roof line stay continuous from
That
left
line,
to
yeah,
right?
now, yes,
Well, that's what you have to remove in that small section to break it up, changing the color. That roof line above it and below it, and except for the stairs going up, is continuous, and it makes that whole facade look like one flat facade.
yes, that was a design decision from the architect, but we can ask him to remove it and then let's make a straight wall with the two moldings on the side, so we can make it like a straight wall all the way up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. That shouldn't be an issue.
Including the gable end of the roof.
Yeah, that shouldn't be an issue.
Right, so Bill, you're suggesting that, like, take that line,
Yeah,
which
that
currently breaks
horizontal.
everything, have a break on each side of it, allow this kind of center volume to look like almost like a standalone house in the middle, and then allow the roof to, it's little returns of those eaves in front of that, to kind of break that up. And that would then, yeah,
If I remember from the last conversation, it was just too much to play into all,
yeah.
and we're just trying to make it
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why when we request for the renderings, the idea was to run the new material all the way down from the top to the bottom. But those were the plans that we got from the architect 30 minutes before submitting. And
But the
then
rendering is what you.
the rendering was made already. That's what is not.
Yeah, I mean, look, at this point, I would suggest that you focus on developing this elevation, and put kind of the time and focus into this drawing to make it work, because this is ultimately going to be the measuring stick. I think that the rendering was, we asked for it, it was critical to show scale, and those, I think the purpose of the rendering has been served, and it's showed us what we need to see. I think if we can kind of fine tune this elevation so that it works, to this board's satisfaction, I think to me, that's the more, that's the place where you should spend your clients should be spending their time and money, on finalizing.
Yeah, so as I understand, recommendation will be to remove the cuts on the elevation made by the roof lines, just in that section on the center, so we can make it straight. I'm gonna say independent structure on that center, and then bring down the moldings all the way down to the stone, right?
Yeah.
That can be fixed right that way. I can talk with the architect to make it happen.
Yeah, and look, color wise, like it's not this board's job to tell you what color to make things for sure, but I think that one of the comments before in terms of breaking it up and one of the suggestions was, is there a way to have something contrasting in that area? Again, just to break that up visually. And that doesn't, maybe it's all blue, but maybe there's a different shade. And again, that's the designers and the client's job, we'll evaluate it, but we're just trying to give you some guidance on how this can be accomplished.
I will propose to the owner to evaluate maybe a darker color on the center.
Yeah.
Something that can work with that color he picked already, but that it can be done also.
And like, keep an eye out ahead of time for the submission deadline, so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not a last minute submission,
I know.
so that we, can be complete and full. Other board questions on this? Real hearing, God bless. Is there can we have a motion to reopen the public hearing?
Or can I make the motion to reopen the public hearing?
Bill Moran, second.
Any objections? None. Is there anybody here to speak to this application? I do not see anybody. Is there anybody on Zoom who would like to speak to this application? Use the hand raise function. And I do not see anybody. I feel like we're raising our hands. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's just.
It's literally just the
literally the cursor. It's been one of those days. Just cover my face. That's very good. Confident. Kudos. Exactly. Lovely.
I would never.
Can we have a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
I'll accept a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Michael Aronson, second.
Any objections to that? I don't see any. All right, so I think we're really close, but I think we need to do this a little bit more. Do you have any questions for us?
The only thing will be if we should focus only on the plan, or there's something else that you think we still have need to be attended.
I mean, I was suggesting you focus on the elevations, because I feel like that's where the material is going to be shown at this point. I think that is there any other feedback?
Well, I mean, if it's not too much trouble to update the renderings, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be-
Given the scale of the property,
Fair.
I think it would be good to see updated renderings.
Yeah, but we can update the renders with any details, but
But
that,
as I agree with the chair and focus on the,
yeah, the new details, but the size that you see on the rendering right now, those the right size, right?
And they should match, right? So if you're
Yeah.
gonna give me one, they need to show the same thing.
Yeah, that's the way I keep always keeping the cars on the front so you can see the size of it.
Very good. Thank you much. Can I have a motion from the board to adjourn the application for this evening?
Or tell me to make the motion to adjourn the application.
Richard Klein, second.
All right, any objections? None. All right, thank you much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so next up is going to be BAR 2024. This is 28 Park Avenue. We're going to take a look back at the changes that have been made since we last saw this BAR application for an addition to the front porch and staircase, originally submitted in August of 24. So, okay, all right, so JB, so introduce yourself, your relation to the project, and we'll go through what's been changed.
Jimmy Fernando, Cherokee Architecture, architect for the project. Since the last time we were here, we have kind of taken a different approach to the house. We did a gable end in the front, which eliminated the shed dormer and the big roof that we had. We changed the front portico. We added a black door. And we added some, make sure that the symmetry of the windows work well on the second floor. And we remove one of the windows on the top that there seemed to be a large window in the past. And I think that worked very well. So continue on. There were no changes made to the plan, to the elevation.
Right, and none of the changes obviously would impact. I know that there were previously granted zoning.
Yes, there was nothing that will change the zoning. Here you see, if you can go up a little bit up, because fortunately we don't have a side to side, we have it up and down.
That works.
That's the proposed front elevation, and that was an print and error, so we can now eliminate the peak that you saw on the first sheet.
I'll draw it.
Yeah. So you see up and down, we keep in some of the symmetry, and then we will go through the side elevation with the addition. I think again, we try to accommodate some of the window location. That it will work better with the elevation. Next one,
Are you screening the porches then, or is it glass?
this is gonna be glass,
Glass,
but it's gonna be a porch.
yeah.
Same here, on the rear, we tried the best to maintain the windows line with the two additions. And you see how the gable end work.
And we just, I know we talked about this in the last meeting, we talked a little bit about the height. There's, in the last drawings we looked at, I think they had it, at least on one of the sheets, you had the dimension string. I didn't see that on this set, but what is?
So it does comply with the, I mean, the coding chart, we're at, in, it's on my eyes. We go to S100, I can't,
Oh, no.
it's, I believe it's, we're at 35, I think we're at 28.
You're allowed, you're at 28? I thought you were adding
No,
those
no,
something,
no,
right?
no. We are allowed. There's no S100?
I feel like I saw it in this set when I was looking at it earlier. There was the zoning worksheet somewhere, or maybe it was just a zoning worksheet.
Yeah, so you're allowed 35, we're at 28. Yeah. Building height.
Requirements 30. Existing 25, proposed 25? No, that's the front yard.
No,
Sorry,
No,
it's
two and a
what's
half,
that?
28, it's 32, I'm sorry, that's right. It's 2.5, it's still proposed, and it's 32 feet.
2.5 stories, got it.
Yes. So we are. in
You're
compliance with
increasing it by four
Yeah.
and a quarter. 4 1/3. Okay. All right, yeah, and I know we talked a little bit about, you know, the reasons for increasing the height, but I know that there's no, I mean, that's I guess, a bill,
compliant.
yeah, it's zoning compliant, so, yeah, all right, board comments on the changes.
I am looking back at my notes. Can we see the right side elevation of the? Because I guess I was wondering. I think on the first, that's it to the right, correct?
Mhm.
That's the addition. So the kitchen is behind. I was sort of wondering why there wasn't a window on the first
Because
floor.
we're trying to leave some furniture room, we have windows and doors to the back.
So you have the windows
Yeah.
in the rear elevation, but that is the kitchen there, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and then, and I don't know how other board members feel about this, but I was kind of wondering whether shutters on the front facade might on the second and third floor, because the existing property has the shutters. I recognize that the ground floor window treatment is completely different, so I don't
I
feel,
think, I mean,
committed to that idea. I'm just wondering what people think of
and I
me.
don't think the clients here, I don't think they'll be opposed to make that a condition.
I mean, I don't know if
Shutters.
if other people agree. I just sort of, it feels a little bit sort of barren to me on the windows, sort of.
I mean, I kind of appreciated that the restoration of that kind of, at least in terms of how the fenestration was organized, that it kind of spoke a little bit more to what was there before.
Right.
I don't feel strongly about shutters one way or
Okay,
another.
yeah, I don't either. I
Yeah,
just was
because
sort
I
of
don't feel it.
questioning it, whether it, but that's basically. all
Well, I
I-
appreciate that the symmetry is there, because last time it wasn't.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah.
Right.
Much more composed.
And has work started? Because I noticed there was a cement truck out there. the other
Yes,
day.
there is a building permit
They're
in place.
doing, is that like foundation work?
Inside the basement, they were pouring cement, and there is,
Okay.
yeah. And Joe will tell me otherwise.
You pulled the permit, but only for that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Right.
Yeah, a few reviews.
Other thoughts or comments from the board? Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Actually, it looks good.
Looks good, yeah. No, I agree. I think this is a much stronger composition than what we had seen last time. I don't really have any other comments or thoughts. Can I ask for somebody to motion to go into a public hearing?
Is it reopening?
This would be reopening, yeah.
Michael Aronson, motion to reopen the public hearing?
Or Talbot, I second.
All right, any objections? I don't see any. Is there anybody in the room to speak to the application? I don't see any, and if you're on Zoom and would like to speak to this application, you can use the hand raise function. And I don't see anybody, so before we close the hearing. Just want to make sure, kind of, does anybody have any thoughts or concerns about the application before we close this? Okay, we have a motion to close the, public hearing.
All right, motion to close the public hearing.
John Bipping in a second.
All right, any objections to that? I don't see any. The public hearing is now closed. I think that, unless we have any other comments, I think we can put this to a vote. I don't believe there were any conditions on this. I think it's very well and clearly documented. So can we have a motion to approve the application?
Richard Klein, motion to approve.
Anderson.
All right.
Second, the motion.
Thanks all. And a roll call.
All right, Holly Thurston.
Yes,
Angelica Kanganis.
Aye.
Bill Maria.
Aye.
Michael Aronson. Aye. Eric Talbot.
Aye.
Richard Klein.
Aye.
And Chair Roy.
Aye, very good. Thank you much. Thank you, JB. All right. So up next is another returning BAR. This is 19 North Malcolm Street. And this is the BAR approval for an addition to an existing house. So we will pull this, we get the drawings up and kind of talk about, I know there's another one that we looked at, I think, at the last meeting.
Yeah, and it's, we kind of circled the area, highlighted the area that, changed.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's some updated photos in here as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we go to the elevation, the big, I think, a blue circle around it.
mhm. Yeah,
Yes. All right, so we have the front and side. The front is kind of, that's like a foreshortened view, right? Because most of that stuff is kind of far
Yeah.
back. That's a stuccoed facade. And those, are those windows existing, just for clarity? Those
Yeah.
two windows?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then
We're only
if you-
talking about anything inside the blue dotted line.
right, so then if we go
Yeah.
down, there, there,
Okay,
that goes with the picture.
The yellow.
So we kind of show that, and also we showed that in, which wasn't shown clearly the last time, that the reason that that door looks shortened is because there is actually steps down to the door.
right, and so you drew a dotted line of the
Yeah.
grade at that location. Maybe we could just zoom out so we can kind of see this image and the photograph at the same time.
Yeah.
Could have moved the car so we could see it a little bit more. But yeah, so this is, so if we're working our way from left to right, like those, like the first window, the door and the second window, those are in the same locations as what we're looking at here.
Yes,
But then as we continue, things are moving, right? You're closing up a window.
yes, we are, actually, we have a double window, one window, that's where most of the changes happening, then we are reworking this there.
The stairs moving
Yeah.
kind of from right to left.
And then, yes, if we hadn't have that black car, you would have seen the other area with the door, and,
The door is like underneath the stair right now.
Mhm.
Okay. And the railing, the baluster, that's what's currently there is
Yes.
what's staying. And that's just a white, like a
and I think
vinyl.
we have a note for the railings,
Okay.
and I think we have the finishes there.
Right,
So we have the railing, the windows, and the stucco.
and what color is the stucco?
This has, we think we call that gray. Yeah, it's a gray stucco.
So the entire level will be
Yes.
stucco.
All right, yeah, questions?
Did you say that the top window is part of the project?
No,
Only what's in blue.
yeah, that,
Yeah, that's an interesting observation,
Yeah.
though not part of this application.
I'm never sure because that picture is old too, so some of the, windows, so that's not part of this application.
It does say on the drawing.
Yeah, too
you're-
much, it's
Yeah.
color white.
Last time we looked at the street view, do you see it in the street view?
Oh, right, we had this problem last time.
No, but this one is,
But yeah, you can see it, there's no
Keep
window.
doing.
yeah, no window.
But I mean, you should can concentrate on the bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Yeah, no,
but it's,
I mean,
it's, you know,
Curious.
I think that
no, I
would
think it's a
be,
good point. I
Yeah.
would have to,
if we're ready to have a resolution on this, I would want to have a condition that it's, you know, the approval is limited to what's in
Yeah.
the blue line, you know, which defines the area of work. Other questions, board members? Okay, we have a, motion to reopen the public hearing.
Eric Talbot, make a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Michael Aronson, second.
Any objections? With none, we're not in public hearing. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak to this application? Don't see anybody. Anybody on Zoom? You can use the hand raise function if you'd like to speak to this application. And I don't see any. All right, so I know we kind of had a longer conversation about this last meeting. I think that looks like the drawing, I think the scope to me is now clear. Like I understand what they're doing in a way that I did not last time. I don't know if there's any other concerns or issues that we would want to bring to the applicant's attention before we move forward with this. Okay. Then can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Calling first motion to close the public hearing. And I'll give again a second.
All right, any objections? See none, public hearing is closed. The one condition that we just mentioned was just, you know, even though it's on the drawings, we very clearly delineating any approval to the work that's shown in the blue dashed lines labeled area of work. With that in mind, we have a motion to approve the application.
Bill Maria, motion to approve the application.
Rich Klein, second.
And a roll call.
Okay, Michael Aronson. Aye. Eric Talbot.
Aye.
Richard Klein.
Aye.
Holly Thurston. Aye. Angelica King Dennis.
Aye.
Bill Maria.
Aye.
And Chair Roy.
Aye. Very good. Thank you very much. All right. So, are you good? You already step away and come back? We're good.
A full twirl.
Yeah, totally. All right, so we're going to keep moving forward here. So next up on the agenda is going to be 6163 Croton Avenue. So this is the, you know, we're looking still at all the things we've been site plan, BAR, conditional use, and, you know, for the record, we did meet on site a couple of weeks ago, I guess. With this board and the applicant is to look at the site, and we then had, I know, drawings were revised and resubmitted. So if we can kind of look at the changes, maybe start on the site plan, kind of look at what was added. And then, yeah, I don't know, maybe we can have, yeah, our consultant's gonna walk through the changes and then we'll go from there. So. Tony, do you wanna, yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I didn't get to see the newest plans that
Yeah.
was around last week. So, you know, some of my comments do talk about lighting, which I've had a chance to review those lighting plans and
Okay.
stuff. But the one thing we did notice, it's the issue of the parking spaces as well. The one by the road would need to, for the loading space, would need to encroach into the right of way to give it enough room for the loading. So that's a tricky one, you know,
Yeah.
being that it's a state right of way. The other thing we noticed, the space in the back, you had called out, you know, this will just be for somebody that doesn't need a wheelchair access, but usually when you supply a handicap, it has to supply handicap. So basically, if somebody goes down there and uses it as a wheelchair, they don't know, you know, they think it's a route into the building. So you can't just say one handicap space is for like somebody that is able to get upstairs, you know what I'm kind of saying? And that's,
well, that we haven't received yet the response from New York State, but our position in reading the code is clear that talks about that. Even though it's not feasible to put a parking space at the bottom, because we have 187 inches of difference in height to get to the front, that will require about 250 linear feet of ramp, which is impossible to build in the back. But it does talk about, it is clear in the code, and I think we have that language on the permit as well, and the drawing as well, that even though you don't provide, it's not feasible to provide access for a wheelchair, that there are other disabilities they need to provide with it. So therefore, it can be somebody on crutches, it can be somebody other type of disability that you still have to provide
I mean,
A accessible.
couple of questions though. So number one, the, the process, you're saying that you haven't heard from the state. Has there been an application made, like a waiver request?
It's not a waiver, it's a clarification because we had a discussion with
And where does it say on the drawing, like, what is it that you're showing on the drawings that says what
is
the,
that,
I thought that was just the building, the interior building code that was.
that's kind of what I thought.
no,
too.
it's actually, there are two parts. One is the ADA standards, 2010 talks about it. And there is part of the building code, 30542, complete change of occupancy, which this is. And I think that's in S101, but we
Right.
do have the language.
Okay, I mean, and obviously, I mean, presumably this is responding to the state code, right, which has to incorporate
Both, yeah.
ADA requirements,
Yeah.
but you're,
Which counts for ramps and
Right.
stuff and how you get
Yeah.
up to that level. You know, the big thing is, it's depending on how wood turns out with space in the front, you would need the space in the back.
right. But I think we also had considered, other than, not only the right of way, but also just the, the safety of having that spot right
Correct.
where the cars are coming in and out and people are walking by,
Yeah.
so.
And that door, if you're loading somebody in, that door will encroach into the right of way, which will encroach his basically
Right.
into the
And can you
side.
actually even enter that site or exit that parking spot without accessing the neighboring property? Back out of that site without? Is it even can you even?
Yeah,
enter
can
it?
you show a movement? I guess you
Yeah,
would be
we can-
turning that way out.
Like backing out into the road, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, how would a car turn because of the angle is not
Right.
exactly 90, how are you gonna get out of I don't think you have to worry about somebody backing into the road, because I guess you wouldn't go from that space back down to the back. But to get around the building, to get out of the site, you
Yeah,
wanna see that. Especially if cars along that side there too,
yeah,
but I don't know everybody's thoughts on that actual space and how that really
I mean,
encroaches.
yeah, I think this is just like kind of, I don't, what I mean, here's. What I want to be careful about is we've had this conversation. Like a million times. I think that, we need to have, I think, clarity on what, I guess what the law requires but also as a planning board, we're evaluating a site plan where we need to make sure, A, that it's safe and functional for our community. And that, like, again, it's a broken record, but this is a conditional use. You're making a major change to this property and just say we can't do it because it's existing. I mean, there are certain things that we're looking at evaluating in order to say, yes, the site plan works, and yes, you can change, you have this conditional residential use on the ground floor. And, the existing site conditions matter and what we can do with them and how we can make them work. So I feel like we're still kind of at square one with that question.
Well, but I think that part of, site plan approval, part of what we're looking at is also observing, and I think what it was at the site, observing what the site is. And in the constraints of the site.
Right, but the constraints of the site have to, inform the function and the program that you're trying to develop on that site, right? So it goes both ways. It's not like it's a really steep site, so it's just too bad, so we can just put that whatever we
I
want.
don't think
there.
that that's been the approach. I think,
Yeah.
it's been the approach that to, I think that we have gone long ways to accommodate and go through and we work through it. What we're looking to do is also move this forward so we can get the variances that we require. I think that by the time, my understanding, by the time we go to the zoning board and come back to you, I mean, this will be the April meeting. We should have plenty of time for the state or with the building inspector to have a
Yeah,
answer to that. I mean, I feel strong professionally that when we read the code and we put two sections on it, that not only the ADA, it's also the state code, both approved by New York State, that is very clear as to what the builder owner and what it needs to be done. And we're still trying to provide the accessible spot.
I mean, maybe you guys want to talk about the variances, or I don't know where to go with this, because this is the same issue. It's like if we go to the zoning, which I know that there's, what are we actually asking the zoning board to look at? And if we're not, if that parking space in the front is one of the variances, which I guess,
It would be, yeah.
right? If we're not, I don't want to ask the zoning board to opine on something that we don't like. So it puts us in a tricky situation, and I feel like this, I don't know, Karen, is there any, advice that we should be kind of looking at on this in terms of like what standard we should,
I mean, it's a difficult decision.
Yeah.
It's a matter of if they need a front yard setback variance or not, for parking in the front yard, excuse me. If you could refer it, but ultimately it's the applicant's risk if the board determines that the front yard parking isn't appropriate.
right, but I also feel like if we make a recommendation to, if we forward something into the zoning board, there's an implicit,
Well, the
Who in their right mind would put a regular parking space there? You have
Yeah.
to either back into it or back out of it, and both of those are difficult to do. Throwing the fact that it's a handicap spot, it's untenable.
And those are also considerations the zoning board will think about as well in determining.
I thought when we looked at it, it didn't seem
practical to have a spot there.
yeah, agreed.
Like
Any
a
spot.
non-handicap, yeah. Yeah, but it's hard. I mean, the whole property is interesting, the gradation, and then just coming up through the middle. kind of thing.
And backing out, you've got that guy's other driveway, if he's
It's
got
a
a car
shared
parked
driveway.
there, not getting out.
Right. And I noticed that you did add on to these drawings, that lot line and those lot widths. Right, you move that car a little bit further up the driveway on the neighbor side, and good luck getting a car out of that spot. I know it's blacktop and maybe it's doable, but
Well, does the board feel comfortable with to refer us with the other variances, so at least we can, again,
to Terrence's point, right, like, there's still a major unresolved issue on the site plan. So can we kind of talk about what the other variances are? Because I think we're talking about this one issue, which is a big issue. There are, I think, other areas where you've made some progress in terms of cleaning up the plan. But maybe we can get that list.
I think the variances are S101 as well.
Yeah, let's just look at them.
Where's it?
S101?
On this?
No, yes.
This?
Is there an S101 on this?
Yeah,
side?
no,
I think
this is
there's-
it.
Yeah,
It's
right there.
just so tiny.
Yes, that's the building.
So you're still waiting for some kind of response from DOT?
Not DOT, as New York State Department. So basically, we're making a statement that these two parts of the code are applicable to here. And again, I don't know, I can't read them because my, but there, you see them right there. I mean, I think the language is very clear and it talks about what is feasible or not, and also talks about the it talks about different you see, like number 3, if providing accessibility and conformance with this section to individual which certain disability, example, those who use wheelchairs, will be structurally impracticable, accessibility should be nonetheless be ensured to persons with other types of disabilities.
I mean, I don't want to get into like a code debate here, but that's speaking about accessibility in general terms, not a a required accessible parking spot, right? So
I also wonder for the space in the back that you're proposing, that if it's not physically feasible to do a ramp, it would still be safe for them, like someone with crutches, to walk up the stairs that are in existence. But then when you get to the end, that small entranceway, I don't know that someone with crutches would have enough room to go through there, kind of similar to a wheelchair would not necessarily have enough. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't know that I could walk forward. through that,
yeah,
right?
like,
That's
That's what it says.
I'm not the skinniest I've ever
Yeah.
been, but I had to kind of, so, that's why I'm wondering if it is even feasible for other handicapable individuals, whether they're in a wheelchair or not, if that would be a consideration.
But what we are proposing is actually 2 locations. I mean, the location in the front, we're trying to grasp for a location where a wheelchair will be accessible besides within the property, besides parking on the street.
But I think you've also heard from this board that I almost to a T that, you know, that there are concerns about the safety of that spot and that
Okay.
while that's, you know, admirable to try to have, you know, a wheelchair accessible spot on the property doesn't seem to be a safe one. So it doesn't work.
And like I've said in the past, if that spot isn't okay in the front, that has to get removed, then you're basically telling them, sorry, if you're in a wheelchair, you're not going to our deli, that type, you know what I mean? In that sense, like, there's no parking for it, so nobody has access to that. That's if that spot in the front is, you know, is removed,
Right.
then, yeah.
Right, and we're allowing this major development change to this site to happen without
Well-
providing any,
Okay, I mean, I don't.
yeah.
I think you really just need to proof out why that rear spot can't be accessible, because if you look at the actual language of that ADA provision, like the entity you have to demonstrate that it's not structurally practical to meet the requirements. I think you just have to show the board that like you can't actually meet the requirements, like there needs to be some like proof or demonstration that that pathway can't be made accessible, like numbers or a plan showing that it doesn't work, like.
A
for
ramp,
the
a
board
ramp
to-
diagram, if it's 181 inches and 181 feet plus you're turning, you know, like, I've designed ramps a million times in my life, like, I realize these things are complicated, but yeah, I mean, right now, or even like, you know, additional walkways that are sloped that may not meet, you know, ADA code, but it would at least provide a, you know, a safer spot for pedestrians to walk up to get to the front of the building, right? Even if it's not, you know, compliant for a wheelchair ramp, just kind of other provisions.
Well, we did change the, you know, the ramp, the sidewalk after the meeting we added steps to make it a more flat level surface to walk on.
I mean, I had a project, it was a little different, we couldn't get sidewalk access to a site, because it was too steep, but we had to show those elevations and prove that it wouldn't work, but we also had to give them a handicap spot in the front of the place, so it was kind of like proving out something, you know, you can't walk in here, but we're giving you a place where you can drive and park and access the site. A little bit different, but it's showing, you know, it's showing the difficulty of getting to the level you need to get to, with certain elevation and.
Right, or like a single stair lift that you could put it, you know, that you could put it, you know, in the future, have availability to put a lift in if somebody wanted to move into the building and needed access, right? There seems like there must be other ways of, I don't know. Just kind of throwing up your hands and saying, "Can't be done." Yes.
One thing I just randomly thought of is the possibility of the village designating a spot out front as being handicapped.
Yeah, yeah.
Possibly as an alternative.
We
That
did
could-
discuss that on site, is if
Yeah.
that was something that the DOT could look at.
That might be a reasonable alternative in this instance.
Yeah. Agreed. I think that would make a lot of sense.
I'd imagine it have to be a drop curve and so I don't know how that really works. You're not having a loading space because you can't load out into the street of traffic, so then you have to load on the other
I
side.
mean, I know that when like on Croton Avenue, I was trying to park the other day, I was like, oh, this is it, there are multiple accessible, you know, reserved handicap spots on Croton Avenue.
Easier than trying to figure out the rear.
Yeah,
the rear
yeah,
walk,
yeah.
so that might be an
That
alternative for
might
you
be
to
something that
consider.
we look at, and then if we could have, yeah, like, maybe, and I don't know, I guess, I just don't know what the feasibility of that or what that process is like, with.
I can tell you what the process is typically. So
Yeah.
if we get someone who moves into a property and says, hey, I, you know, have accessibility issues and I have this tag. We go through a process with the police department and DPW, and that's something that the manager's office can dispense of right away. If it's a component of a site plan, I'm not sure if that sort of changes the configuration of what that approval process looks like, but
Okay.
it's something we do with a fair amount of regularity.
Right. Again, I'm just, you know, looking at ways to recognize the like this, I feel stuck installed right now, and we've spent, I think, 25 minutes talking about this one issue. So, you know, if there's, I'm sorry, we took down the chart,
The zoning.
the zoning, 'cause I think like that's like the one area where we could potentially to go into. So we are,
We need a minimum side yard. And then,
I believe the variance is flagged where, the driveway width, the separation from a parking space and driveway to the property line, 2 feet required, 0 feet is proposed.
That's true in the back and on the side, so it's not just
Yeah.
the new spot.
And then there's a requirement for the buffer in the rear yards abutting residential district.
Yeah.
10 feet required, 0 feet is provided. And then the front yard parking setback is up in the air.
The front yard, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
for the handicap parking.
I don't know that we would refer to that because I don't think that's something that we would, are comfortable.
It's, I mean, it's up to you. You could refer it with a note to the zoning board that you're uncomfortable with the front yard parking. You can ask them to weigh in as a matter of the area variance test.
I think one of the things is, the parking in the front, we still had a discussion about if that's gonna be handicap about that wheelchair aisle, so like I said, ADA compliance is federal regulated. Handicap accessibility is the state. So if you applied to New York State asking about a variance for that, I'm not sure how they would take that because they are required to comply with the ADA compliance of federal standards. So, you know, if the only reason why we're gonna be sending them to the zoning board for parking the front yard is whether or not that can stand as is. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think what we requested was to find out if that was even gonna be accepted by the state. And I don't think we have that answer yet.
If that spot would be in the front, would be accepted by the
Right,
state.
unless JB, you're proposing that if that can't be a handicap spot, are you still asking to put a parking spot there?
And I think,
Is that only contingent if it's gonna be handicap accessible?
yeah. So I would say, you know, I think that based on this conversation and based on our site walkthrough, let's get rid of that spot. Let's look at the variances that are elsewhere on the site. But I think that my caution would be less to the zoning board and more to the applicant, that there is a very big open question about whether the site plan as provided without kind of greater clarity on how this accessibility and specifically this accessible parking issue will be resolved, that you would be, that your client is going to the zoning board at their own risk. And that the zoning board, I think, should be advised of that as well, that the planning board still has, you know, really major questions about this component of the site plan, even if we feel like the others have, you know, kind of been developed to a point where we have a greater comfort level. I just don't want this to be, I don't want any of that referral to be an endorsement of the site plan.
I'll make sure that's communicated to the zoning board.
Okay, so. I guess, Tony, you've not looked at the lighting plans. I know a lot of these drawings kind of came in late. I think that obviously if there are any additional memos, JB, you'll be able to kind of look at that. All right, so just to kind of set the process straight, I do want to, let's reopen the public hearing for, you know, for a moment and see if there's anybody who wants to speak to that. So maybe we'll start there.
Are we gonna look at any of the VAR issues?
We can look at all of it. We absolutely, if you have comments.
I will, you know, my main concern is being referred to, at least for those items.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with the language you guys been talking about, so we can resolve that and keep the project moving, but I would like to review the VAR, so I know that we're all on the same page.
All right. Okay, so, but we can still open the public hearing. We won't adjourn the item, so I just want to make sure we don't forget about this. So, motion to open the public hearing.
Bill Murray, motion to reopen the public hearing.
Eric Talbot, second.
Any objections? With none, we're now in the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak to this application? Don't see anybody. Is there anybody on Zoom who would like to speak to this application? You can use the hand raise function. I don't see anybody. So can I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
Michael Aronson, motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Any objections? There are none. So, all right, kind of going back, because I know on site we spent a lot of time on the BAR. Michael, you said you had some comments or thoughts.
Yeah, can we pull up the,
I guess A200.
yeah, it's actually, I think my question, well, I had two questions. One was about the sidewalk and that sort of site plan, but I actually more had a question about the trim, because I thought when we were out in the field, we had suggested keeping the brown trim, but then
Yeah.
when I looked at the drawings, it looked like they were white, so I wasn't clear
No,
what
the only white trim is the wood on the top and the front.
in the front.
Yes,
And
the brick building.
is there a
the-
reason why maybe we wouldn't want that trim to be brown to sort of match some of the other trim on the adjacent building and below? I mean, is it architecturally more? I mean, even in that little inset drawing there, it looks like it's brown, but maybe that's just my eyes.
Oh, it does.
Where, the white trim?
Yeah, the
Top left.
top left, yeah, that looks like that
Yeah.
trim is brown there, but in the drawings it's showing it white.
Assuming that we can, we can make it brown. I thought that being a different component of the building, that white there, but again, point well taken. I mean, we can make it brown.
Okay, and it also wasn't clear on the side elevations that all the trim was brown. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I wasn't looking.
All trim is going to be brown. And I know one of the prints, we talked about doing the bottom, that's not gonna, again, that's a printing error there, that's all solid brown.
Not polka dotted.
Yeah.
Aw. So, okay, and
And again, one of the things that you're gonna notice, and we're gonna resubmit, once we got, I mean, we did this once we get the photometrics back, we did add it, we are going to add another light in the little space in between, because when we saw the photometric, it looked like, it's like the tail end is kind of dark.
Where it gets really skinny.
Yeah.
and can we see in a little more detail how the entranceway is addressed or that opening is addressed? Is that, I know you talked about adding steps at some point from the
Yeah, I think
parking
if
lot.
you go to the side elevation, probably you see it better. There.
Okay,
Those flats are still pretty slopey though, right? I mean, I thought we were trying to.
yeah.
We can,
So
we
we
can
sort
add
of
another.
flatten it out.
yeah.
And then the opening itself, you're not changing the dimensions of
no.
that? Because it's a structural issue.
And we did change the number, we did added the window,
Right.
we
and the
did
front,
change
you-
the concrete
yeah.
in the front. I think all the comments that they were, we spoke about and they were written on the little sketch we received. I think we hope we capture all of them in that.
The sketch meeting, Valerie had some field notes that she's looking forward to. Okay. I agree, by the way, just in the comment of the brown on the front. I think that would
Okay.
be a little
So-
more consistent with it. One of the things we're trying to do right now is uniform these two, bring these two buildings together a little bit. And I think that would help. But, all right,
Then we changed in the tile steps at the entrance of the,
Oh, I'm up 61, you were
Yes.
gonna replace that, the tile
yes,
flooring
we have a
in
note to that to change that.
the entranceway.
Yeah.
it's not, what is the actual width of that little pass there? Because that was another comment that we had, like, and that is a kind of site plan related too, because it's like,
Okay.
it can possibly narrow. And is that considered access? I mean, this gets back to the initial issue, sorry to, but just to bring us back there, but in terms of front of, parking lot to the sidewalk, right? Or even parking lot to the commercial spaces, right? Because there's entrances to the residential from the back, but the only commercial entrance is from the front, so like it's like less than 30 inches.
Where are the entrances to the residential and the rears of the rear of the properties? I don't know that I.
No, the entrances are from the front.
Oh, so
All
there
the
is,
entrances. I thought you don't have any access to the buildings from the back for residents? They can't enter from the back. They've all got to walk around the
Yeah.
front. So everybody's walking through that.
right, so that walkway becomes even more.
It would be large.
You walk through
With
it,
your
it's like,
suitcase.
it's claustrophobic.
Oh,
Yeah.
no thanks. Yeah, it feels so, and does the plan address lighting in that? Because that also feels like a little.
Yes, so
dangerous
that's, I
later.
think, S1 or
Yeah.
3, and I can kind of go over what we were talking about
That's 103.
You get a body going trying to get to that.
there, so if you zoom in, once we get a photometric back, we then realize that, oh, stay with the, you got it down?
Yeah.
That's why you can, because then you can access.
Yeah, it's, yeah, that little area in the back.
Yeah, so we are adding a light there.
Okay.
But go back to the question I had a moment ago. What is the actual dimension of that?
I will have that amenable. Give me
Like,
that.
does it even meet code? Like, if that's,
Okay.
It's one thin person.
yeah, no, I mean, it's like.
All the architects.
They're not doing it.
I literally don't know that I could walk forward without a turn. It's like,
Yeah.
Oh, the architect.
The first, I was like,
The architect.
Wow.
yeah.
that's why I wonder if it's even like 30 inches, you know, like.
I think it's less than 30 inches. I really
Yeah.
do. And I mean, it feels even worse because it goes from this very wide corridor.
Yeah.
And it's just the walls that are cant inward to this like. Yeah, and if there was, I mean, there's safety issues too. We got a bunch of people going up to like, a group going in, now they're all being funneled.
Yeah, for like a restaurant, or if
Like
people are
cattle,
drinking and they're
literally.
walking back out, you know.
All right, so we were enlarged that.
Okay. With all those things in mind, just to take this back to what we were talking about a second ago, yeah, this is. You can see it. It doesn't look as, I think from this side, but yeah, look at that compared to the doors next to it, right? Those aren't huge
Or
doors.
even the dresser drawer.
Right. No joke. That's like,
It fits through the doorway.
that's like
They were
20
moving that
20
bar down and gave up.
Widen is being replaced, JB.
Yeah, that's how
Yes.
that you.
And
right?
I can't remember from the plan that also white, they're metal, wood, what kinds
I
of
do
doors
remember
are
about that door.
Well, I would like to give them
61
white.
door,
They should
wide
be white.
upstairs.
So I like to give them white.
Okay.
Otherwise it'd be too much.
All right. Okay, so I know that we've been in and out of the public hearing. It's currently adjourned. We talked about making a referral, a kind of a tepid referral, I'll call it, to the zoning board, really so that the client can get a sense from the zoning board if they've got concerns. Maybe different from some of the concerns that we've already voiced that I want the zoning board to be aware of. So I know we talked about it a second ago, so there's side yard setback. Sorry, there's the rear yard to the,
Separation from a parking space and driveway to the property line, rear yard buffer. And then when this does get sent over to the zoning board, Joe and I look at it again and just double check all the variances, and if something gets added in our review.
Okay.
It's added,
but not the front yard parking because we're not endorsing that.
the not front yard parking.
Okay, so we have a motion to make that qualified recommendation to the zoning board.
Michael Aronson making a motion to make a referral to the zoning board as outlined, for the exception of the front yard parking.
Good job, Dan.
Right, and any objections? We've discussed it, I think we're good. That motion carries. All right, so I think we're good. Can we have a motion to adjourn? Yeah,
Real quick,
sorry, yeah.
When you come back to the planning board, JD, I do think a big part of your resubmission will be either proofing out the infeasibility of that rear handicap spot or reporting on the potential street ADA parking.
Maybe that'd be both amazing. Yeah, makes sense. Any other last minute comments from, nope. So can we have a motion to adjourn this application?
Motion to adjourn, which you find?
All right, any objections? There are none. Application adjourned. All right, thank you. All right, thank you, Matt JB. You're off the hook. Okay, so next up on the agenda is actually our last open, not adjourned item. This is gonna be 171 Croton Avenue. We've looked at this and actually have done a site visit for this project as well. I think, I don't know if, Sharon, do you want to get, I know the best way to introduce this, because I know that there's still some ongoing conversations in the background regarding this application.
Yes, so as the board is aware, there is an underground culvert that runs through this site. The ownership of that culvert has not yet been established. We don't know who owns it. We don't know who's responsible for maintaining it. And as part of the site plan application, the question of what can be built on top of the culvert, who owns it and who maintains it is very important. So the board cannot consider the site plan application until this culvert issue is resolved. However, this application also requires BAR approval, so the board can certainly weigh in on the BAR aspects of this application.
Got it. That's really clear. So I think the applicant, you know, the applicants and the attendees listening, we should bring them in. And then I think once they're in, I'll kind of echo your thoughts there.
Okay, Mr. Bonfiglio and Mr. Cotto, I'm seeing that you're both declining. Oh, well, now someone's going. All right, I'll try one more time. Vote. Okay, here we go.
All right. So gentlemen, if you can turn your cameras on and unmute, we can kind of carry on this conversation. So I'll give you a moment.
Okay.
Hello there.
Could you hear me?
Can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, our screen is now undergoing some cleanup and I'll see you in
Sorry.
a second.
We
It's
can
all right.
see you, you're here.
I don't know if you could see me, but I'm in a car. I'm outside my son's baseball practice right now. So this is what we got. Mr. Cotto, you there?
Yes, I'm here. How you doing?
Okay, good.
Excellent. So,
So if I'm hearing this correctly, you're not going to allow this planning meeting to take place because of the ownership of the culvert?
No, the meeting can take place. The board's going to consider the architectural review portion of the application, but the
Okay.
board can consider the site plan portion until this culvert issue has been resolved, particularly since it is relevant to the site plan, but also as part of the board's secret review.
So the letter that we received with the comments states pretty clearly what the village position is. The village position, according to the document that I have, and I'm sure you guys have, is that the village is not responsible for the culvert. So that's the only reason why we're putting in the construction of the culvert in the site plan. So I'm just kind of confused. It's been about 3 years now, and if there hasn't been a determination on who owns this thing, I don't think it's going to happen in the near future. So I'm just, I don't want this whole thing to be held up because of, some.
are you
What's that?
acknowledging that as part of your site plan, you would be constructing and taking responsibility for the culvert?
What I'm saying is I'm going to move forward because, financially I need to do something. And then whatever I have to do, if it's going to be in court, then it'll be in court. But, as of right now, what the village position is, which the document that I have states very clearly that the village is not taking ownership and that basically it's falling on me. So I'm just following suit to that. So I'm basically doing what the village is forcing me to do, which is pay for the engineering to fix a culvert that is clearly the wastewater, the stormwater, a stormwater circuit for the village. It's serving the village. It just happens to be under my building that I had no knowledge of. So if the village position is that I have to deal with this in order to construct the building, then I'm saying, okay, yeah, but I'm not going to say that, I should have to do that. I'm not going to say that I should be liable for that cost. But at this point, in an effort to move forward, sure, let's make it part of the plan review. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, God, I'm sorry.
It's the repair of the culvert, but also the ongoing maintenance of the culvert. It's kind of a two-part question here. So if you're willing to take responsibility for not only repairing, but also maintaining the culvert, that's kind of a different story. But until
Well, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not conceding to taking responsibility for something that doesn't belong to me.
Yeah. Let me just put in my 2 cents. I'm the attorney on
some lawsuits against the village regarding 2 Sherman Place, which my client also owns. We were in court recently, and the attorneys Hodges and Walsh, I believe you guys contract that firm for these types of cases. We were in court. So he argued in court regarding 171 Croton Avenue regarding ownership of that culvert at that Stuart Kahan was doing research to find out the actual ownership. But the funny thing about it was that we were not in court for 171 Croton Avenue. We were in court for 2 Sherman Place on the flooding issues there. That's, in a sense connected. The water flows down from that culvert where my client's having a problem in 2 Sherman Place to 171 Croton Avenue. So consistent with what you're saying, yeah, apparently Stuart Kahan is doing some research to find out if that culvert underneath 171 Croton Avenue is the village or belongs to Mr. Bonfiglio. But he's just frustrated because we have 3 lawsuits regarding 2 Sherman Place, which is across the street from 171 Croton Avenue. We have we're going to file a lawsuit for 171 Croton Avenue on this culvert issue. So it's just this poor young man is frustrated over his major investment in the village, with his businesses, and he has a bunch of employees, close to 100, 4 businesses, and it's just been a heartache for him. And he's just, he's paying taxes on the property and nothing's happening. And so that's where we're at. I just wanted to give the board the status of what's going on.
We appreciate that, and as you know, we're evaluating site plans, and we understand that there's a question or a conversation going on regarding the culvert. And I think as our land use council just very clearly described, right, our evaluation of the site plan rests on ensuring that the culvert is restored, B, that the responsibility is clearly assigned and agreed to. So but that's not our board's role to adjudicate that. So
the board has no jurisdiction over who owns or doesn't own the culvert, unfortunately.
Right.
That's not going to be resolved at the planning board level.
Right. So
Right. So if I may, if we could just continue with the architectural review, at this point, I will address the culvert as I'm being kind of forced to on my planning board plan because of the collapse, and it clearly affects the stability of the building and the construction of the building. For that reason, and that reason only, I will go ahead. We will pay for the engineering and pay for all that stuff, and then we'll hash it out in court. But for the time being, I would like to just, if we could, focus on the architectural review and kind of find a path forward for the building itself.
Yeah, and in that spirit, let's put those drawings up, because I know that there has been some development here, and we wanted to have the opportunity to talk to you guys about that, and some new renderings and drawings, and make sure that you have your feedback that you can give to your architect in terms of how we've seen that. So I think that there were some color renderings that were provided. That would probably be the best.
Would it be possible? I'm sorry. I mean, obviously this is your meeting. I'll follow suit, but I personally think it would be really beneficial if we could start with the document the comment document that we got back from the town's engineer with their comments. If we could just go, I think there's like 10 comments. If we could just go down the line and just discuss those, would that be possible, or is that something we could do after this?
Yeah, well, what we're talking about here is the BAR comments, and just the architectural review component of it. I think that any engineering checklist is really related to site plan, and that's the part that we want to make sure that we have resolution on the culvert for, which doesn't sound like we have yet. So,
but there's issues in the comments of that document that are not related to the culvert, and those are the ones that I'm interested in resolving.
I understand that, but this is where we're just, in order to draw a distinction, we're drawing a distinction between the BAR portion of the application and the site plan. And so all of those comments, they're not all understood related to the culvert, but they are related to the site plan. So this is we're trying to help you and move this forward in the spirit of trying to get, making progress on this. But that's the line that we're drawing. So we'll focus on this.
Tonight, the board is just looking at architectural review.
So what is the point of doing this? So you're not good, so there's not gonna be any comments on the architectural until the ownership is resolved? This is what you're saying? At the planning board? Is that even legal? Is that even your place?
The site plan review as was described, which rests upon resolution of this important culvert issue, can't proceed until we have clarity on that. The architectural review, which is the nature of that review is different, and it looks at any proposed construction and how it affected the neighborhood and neighboring properties. It's something we can look at, because it's.
No, I understand, but what I'm focusing on putting the entire building and the entire review forward. So if it's not going to happen this meeting, obviously the Mr. Khan it's been 8 months. I have emails going back 8 months where he's telling me he's going to figure out who owns it. There's nothing in the village. According to Mr. Khan, I have an email. Mr. Cotto, if you could jump in here, I have an email where he says there is no record of ownership. So at what point am I going to be able to proceed here? With due respect.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I understand your question, but I also.
No, I don't think you do.
I do.
I don't think you could possibly fathom what this village is putting me through.
I can't answer it. This is not the right venue for that question, unfortunately.
Okay,
Mr. Cotto.
Interject.
Mr. Cotto.
Yeah. Let me just say, like I indicated on a separate issue, he's dealing with a couple of lawsuits against the village regarding a flooding issue on the culvert in Park Place, Sherman Place.
But regardless, they basically just said that if I say that I will deal with the culvert, that we could move forward. I'm saying I will deal with the culvert. So why can't we move forward?
Well, we heard that comment at the head, which I respect and appreciate. I think that there were two parts of that question, which is fixing the culvert and assigning or understanding responsibility for maintenance of the culvert. That's the question that's been put before us, right? That my understanding is that one of those questions you're volunteering to move forward on, which is great. The other question remains open. As we've said, this board cannot make any determination on that. This is like a fact that we need to resolve before we can move. It's kind of a thing in front of us in our way. So we can't make progress, discuss, deliberate, or kind of help you resolve that, because it's just not it's not our purview. That's not the role of this board. So, if you don't want to, and I understand if you don't want to move forward with the architectural review discussion, because it's you've got other pieces of this that need to reach resolution. I get that.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't want to waste my time doing that if I can't do the entire thing. It doesn't make sense. I'm here because I'd like to move forward with the entire application, not part of the application. No, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. It doesn't make sense. I want to move forward with the application, and not allowing me to do so is simply costing me more money, and that will be named in the lawsuit as well. So if this is where we are, if you're not allowing me to proceed until verbatim, until somebody admits to ownership of this culvert and maintaining the culvert in the future, that is the planning board's position. I'm asking.
It's the village's position.
Okay. All we want to know is that we've been waiting a long time to get any idea of what's going on regarding the research, ownership. I know it's not within the purview. I understand your hands are tied, the planning board, but you have to understand my client's frustrations with this. It's not easy. It's just spending monies, and we're not getting any feedback from the village whatsoever. So that's his frustration.
Nothing.
And so as a means of getting this moving forward, he's a businessman, he wants this going forward. He's willing to go and assume the costs and then deal with the ownership in the courts. But I understand that your hands are tied. I know where you're coming from, but it's just a big frustration for my client, because it's going to be, at the end of the day, it's going to be like 5 or 6 lawsuits with the village. So it's unfortunate, and he just wants to move forward. It's not helping him whatsoever, as an investor in the village. figure he would be getting more assistance than what he's getting now. So, but it's not personally with any one of you at the planning board, but just understand his frustration. We're not getting anywhere. That's why we're filing lawsuits. I've been in the village for 40 years as an attorney, and a lot of people know me, and I'm not in the business of filing lawsuits unless necessary. And then with this one individual, we have 5 or 6 lawsuits in a matter of what, 2 years? You know, it doesn't. We just want to get this thing moving. That's all.
All right, very good. Well, we've heard you and we appreciate your candidness and, we'll, you know, I think we can, at this point, having heard what you said, I think I can have a motion from the board to adjourn the application for this evening.
All right, Talbot, I make a motion to adjourn the application.
All right, any objections? There are none, so the application is adjourned for this evening. Okay, so before we quit for the evening, I just want to make sure, kind of go through the adjourned items on the agenda, and just ask staff if there's any items that have any notable updates that we should be attending to. You know, there's 7 Denny Street, which I think we saw recently, which is just the BAR. There's 229 Spring Street, which I think we also saw at our last meeting. So I think it's already 10 Marble Place. Any movement there? I know there was a little bit of movement last meeting.
I don't remember if this is before or after we've seen you last, but 10 Marble got the consent from the Board of Trustees to go forward with the license agreement, which I believe entailed removing some of the items.
Yeah.
So I think the next step is that we'll invite them to come back.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great. 80 Main, any update or anything new that we've received from them? I know that.
No
Okay.
updates.
No updates. That's enough of an answer. Riverwalk, any update?
I believe Valerie, when she was here last, had asked the board to consider taking this off of the agenda. We've been in touch with Dan Patrick of Cuddy and Fader, who's counsel to this application. He understands that, you know, we're sort of in a difficult place right now. He thinks that they need a little bit more time to get their act together, but so long as they're not going to, you know, lose any of their progress, they're happy to come off the agenda for the time being.
Okay.
Is that a fair characterization?
Right, so they've had that, we discussed it at our last meeting, we advised them, they understand it, it's been quite some time, I think at this point, I don't even know if we have a record of the last time but it was originally submitted in 2022 in April, and I've seen nothing in the last several months, so.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know that there's a set time by which we would like them to come back, but if it goes on for too terribly long, then we'll publicly make that determination. You know, we would ask them to, you know, reapply when they're ready to come back. Right now, we're not going to require that, just renotice them.
Okay.
But if it goes on for a protracted period, they need to reapply.
Any objections from the board to asking them to remove them from the agenda until they can renotice? Okay, no objections, so that's. Okay, all right. We have a motion from the board to adjourn the meeting for this evening.
Michael Aronson, motion to adjourn the meeting.
And John Viking again, a second.
Any objections to that? We aren't. All right, that carries. All right, thanks, guys. Good meeting.
Good night, everyone. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Caitlin.
Cool.